Alright, so these are the new Instinct 3 Tactical Editions from Garmin. So these take the recently released Instinct 3 and add specific tactical features like some additional sport profiles, specialized settings for using these with night vision goggles, as well as some security related features, and brings a couple hardware differences as well. Now at the core, these have everything that the standard Instinct 3s have and just expands on them with additional tactical features for those of you who can actually utilize those features. So these are still full featured sports watches that can track tons of different sports, from all the standard stuff like running, cycling, as well as swimming. There's lots of gym profiles, there's outdoor recreational profiles. There's a lot of profiles here, and then it also has the same health features like 24/7 heart rate tracking, there's sleep tracking, heart rate variability or HRV, and there's also a lot on the fitness and performance tracking side of things like Garmin's training readiness features. And I already have a video going over all the features that the Instinct 3 has that I'll have linked down in the description below, which you can check out once you're done over here. But in this video, I want to focus mainly on the differences between the standard Instinct 3 and these tactical editions, just so you can see if these additional tactical features are worth it for you, or if the base Instinct 3 would suit your needs. So the Instinct 3 Tactical comes in both a solar version as well as an AMOLED version, just like the standard Instinct 3s, but when it comes to size, these solar models offered both in a 45mm size option as well as a 50mm size, but the AMOLED version is only offered in a larger 50mm size. Kind of interesting that there's no 45mm AMOLED tactical model though, considering that they do offer both AMOLED and solar in both sizes on the standard Instinct 3. And then this is how the 50mm AMOLED model looks on my 185mm circumference wrist, and then this is what the 45mm solar model looks like. And I actually don't have the 50mm solar tactical edition here, but I do have all the other sizes in the standard Instinct 3s, just so you can get an idea of how they look, at least on my wrist. And then when it comes to the differences in the display types, well, each of these displays have some advantages to them, as well as some disadvantages, and we'll go over that in just one bit. But for color options, well, they offer black, and well, black for all the Instinct 3 Tactical Editions. And one big difference between the solar tactical models versus the standard black models is that these are actually all black, where the standard solar models have an orange accent on the stainless steel accent. And then with the AMOLED edition, so the standard AMOLED Instinct 3 doesn't have that orange color that's found on the Solar edition and goes with a more darker metal ring, but there is actually a slight difference here between the Tactical edition, where the metal ring on the standard AMOLED 3 is a bit more of a gunmetal color, where it's darker on the Tactical edition. And then the buttons are also a little bit more gray compared to the Tactical edition, so the black color in the Instinct 3 Tactical is actually all black. And then construction-wise, so these are going to be the same as the standard Instinct 3s, where they have a plastic body, a metal accent ring, and then a plastic bezel on top of that. So the materials and durability are actually the same here. However, the design does differ just a little bit, where they changed the bezel design slightly, where the standard Instinct 3 has that metal accent ring showing on the inside with these sort of little cutouts, where the Tactical edition goes with a completely smooth inner diameter. However, in the Tactical editions, though, these expose more of the metal accent ring on the top and the bottom of the bezel, so it's almost like they kind of inverted the design on the outer bezel a bit on these. And then another slight difference is that the standard editions have a little bit more etching on the glass itself, with these kind of like silvery white lines on the AMOLED and then orange and white lines on the solar, where those aren't actually present on the Tactical editions. And then for the display, so these have the same display options as the standard Instinct 3s, where they have a solar model as well as an AMOLED model, but there is actually a minor difference though with the AMOLED model. So when it comes to choosing between these kind of displays, each of them have some advantages and some disadvantages. And with the solar model, so these allow them to get nearly unlimited battery life if you get enough solar exposure. These kinds of memory pixel displays are also extremely good in direct sunlight, where this kind of transflective display technology actually gets brighter and more visible the more sun that you get, and the contrast is actually pretty incredible here. Now, one arguably pretty big but maybe overlooked upgrade from the previous generation Instinct 2s is that the solar Instinct 3s have displays that are significantly more clear and have more contrast than before. And one of the reasons for this is an increase in solar efficiency, where they have these new solar panels around the outside of the display that aren't just more efficient, but they also look better, where they're now basically all black, where the previous generation, you'll notice this kind of reddish purplish hue to them. And these new solar panels are actually so much more efficient that they were also able to remove the translucent solar panel which they had before that was on top of the display, while actually getting better battery life claims. But removing that translucent solar panel really did contribute quite a bit to readability. Now, what could be viewed as a downside to these displays though is that they don't offer as much resolution as an AMOLED display, and they're also tougher to see at a glance if there's not in direct sun without enabling the backlight. So like at night, it's harder to see these unless you have these at just the right angle or if you enable the backlight. But the thing is that actually may be what you want in a display where it actually doesn't emit light and want something a little bit more subtle. Now with AMOLED displays, these are just like your smartphone where these have these bright, colorful displays that can display tons of colors and also have tons of resolution. So information displayed on these have just a lot more information, and they can also utilize those additional pixels and colors for more robust charts in some areas. The biggest downside to these displays though is battery life, where these kinds of displays require much more power than memory pixel displays. So with these, you can bank anywhere from like 8 to 9 days all the way up to like 3 weeks or so, depending on if you choose to use the always on display mode, where the display kind of dims to the lower brightness when you're not interacting with it, or if you're not going to be using that mode. Now, while a memory pixel display like what's found in the solar model is absolutely better in direct sun, there's still no issue seeing the AMOLED display outside. Previous AMOLED displays of the past may have been harder to see just because they couldn't get bright enough to overcome the sun, but there aren't any issues with current AMOLED display technology like what's found in the Tactical Edition Instinct 3. The actual display size is also going to differ between these, where the solar models have a 0.9-inch square display on the 45mm model and a 1.1-inch display on the 50mm solar model, where the AMOLED model has a 1.3-inch display. And the main reason for this is the solar panels around the outside of the display. Now, for why there isn't a solar AMOLED model, well, the technology doesn't seem to be there quite yet for efficient enough solar panel to make a meaningful impact on the higher power needs of an AMOLED display. But the solar technology makes a really big impact on these memory pixel displays though. And then another difference with these displays is that the solar models have this unique little cutout window where it can display different kinds of information based on different areas of the interface, where the AMOLED model doesn't have that physical cutout window, although they actually did kind of mimic that cutout design with the actual user interface itself. And then one more thing to note is that neither of these have a touchscreen, so both of these use a 5-button configuration just like all previous Instinct models. And whether or not want to use a touchscreen is kind of debatable, but it is kind of strange to not have a touchscreen on an AMOLED watch, and that was probably one of the most interesting decisions Garmin made on the Instinct 3 AMOLED models. Anyhow, with these two display types, so what I'd say though is that even for someone like me who can't necessarily utilize these watches in a tactical manner, in my mind, I would guess that the solar model is going to be more appropriate in those more tactical situations where you kind of need to be as subtle as possible. But hey, there is that AMOLED model out there for those of you who want it. And I've actually got another super in-depth video going over all the differences between the solar and AMOLED Instinct 3s, where I go into every last little detail of how they differ, and I'll have that video linked down in the description below. Now, one minor difference with the tactical AMOLED model versus the standard AMOLED is that there's a minor component difference inside which allows it to have a night vision mode where it's designed to use with night vision goggles where it can dim the display to a lower brightness level than what the standard model can do. And this mode is kind of interesting where it's not just dimming the display to a super low brightness level. It also changes some other settings, like it'll also disable the heart rate sensor in the back, which I'd have to guess that level of brightness from the optical heart rate sensor would be too bright. And then also disables the white LED from the flashlight and changes it to just shades of green. Oh, and that's another difference between the standard Instinct 3s and the tactical models, is that the standard Instinct 3s have both white as well as red for the built-in torch or flashlight, where the tactical models use white and green. And then the tactical AMOLED model still has the redshift mode or color shift modes just like the standard Instinct 3. So this is where you can change the entire user interface to shades of red, green, or orange if you'd like. And this is primarily intended just for regular use during evening or nighttime hours, where these kind of colors may not interfere with circadian rhythms as much as the white and blue light from the standard display. Now, the solar models actually don't have the redshift mode just because it actually doesn't need it, because it doesn't actually emit light unless you enable the backlight. But going back to the night vision goggle mode for a second, on the solar models, this disables the heart rate sensor just like the AMOLED, but it also disables the backlight entirely just to not blow out your goggles accidentally. These also have a stealth mode setting which you can enable. So what this does is that it disables all wireless communications from your watch like Bluetooth, and it also won't record any location information. So you'll see here that it disables the connection to your phone, the music controls to your phone, as well as even contactless payments. But even though it's not recording any location information, you can still go track an outdoor activity and track your distance as well as all your physiological metrics, but it's just not actually recording any of that information. Even in real time, as you can see from the map page, where it literally doesn't even have a breadcrumb trail, versus the other Instinct 3 Tactical where I didn't enable stealth mode. So you can still get your total distance as well as your health metrics and such, it just doesn't record any actual coordinates. And then another security related feature is a kill switch feature, which allows you to wipe your watch of all its data with a hotkey combination. So like here, I just have it set up to pressing the start key and the down key together, and then after a 10-second countdown, it'll wipe all the data from your watch and reset it to factory settings. Interestingly though, the Instinct 3 Tactical doesn't have an option to do this though from the controls menu, which you can actually do on the Tactics 8 as well as previous Tactics models. Not sure if that's just something that will be added in the future, but I'd have to guess that just having a hotkey setup to do this would be much more subtle and easier to access than trying to dive into the controls menu. And then in terms of sport profiles, so just like the standard Instinct 3, this is a full-featured sports watch that can track pretty much all the sports that you can imagine, whether you're a runner, a cyclist, a swimmer, a triathlete, a gym goer, as well as all of you out there who ski, snowboard, stand-up paddleboard, do team sports, racket sports. The list kind of goes on and on here. However, the Tactical Instinct 3 also comes with some additional sport profiles, like there's also a Jump Master profile for jumping out of airplanes, and I know nothing about hurling myself out of perfectly good airplanes, but here's all the options and settings for all of you out there who do. And it also has applied ballistic capabilities where you can figure out aiming solutions for long-range shooting, but this does require payment to access these features, and this is actually a little bit different than the Tactics 8, where the Tactics 8 actually comes with the applied ballistics light aiming solutions, and then you can opt to the elite level if you'd like, but with the Instinct 3 Tacticals, it has those shooting solutions capabilities, but you'll just need to pay access to use those features. However, these do actually have the capability of being used in conjunction with the Applied Ballistics Quantum Map if you'd like. And then another profile they include in the list of tactical related profiles is the new Rucking activity profile, where you'll be able to enter a pack weight all the way up to like 200 pounds or so. And this allows you to track the additional weight that you may be carrying during your ruck. Now, it's purely just being able to track your pack weight during an activity though. It's not actually changing any physiological metrics. So for instance, like calories burned. Well, calories burned on stuff like hikes is already just based off of heart rate. So while your heart rate will likely be higher carrying more weight, the algorithm for calculating calories is just working off of heart rate. So there's really no need to actually change that. And I actually just tested this recently where I had one watch that is using a standard hike profile with no pack weight entered versus the Rucking profile on a Tactics 8 with a pack weight. And the calories burned were within like 1 calorie of each other. Now, it could definitely be argued though that this is definitely putting much more muscular load or strain to your body, but that's also a much harder thing to quantify. But I think where this could get interesting in the future is that it could at least account for that pack weight into other metrics like let's say VO2 max. And it's not just a Rucking profile, by the way, where you can enter a pack weight. You can also do this for running, walking, trail running, as well as hiking. But here's a little bonus for all you original Instinct 3 owners out there. So although the Rucking profile is being marketed as a feature of the Instinct 3 Tactical, that profile is actually being added to the standard Instinct 3 via software update, I believe around the time of like the next quarterly update in summer 2025. So don't just buy the Tactical Instinct 3 just for this feature. The standard Instinct 3s will also be getting that sometime soon. And if you want to go ahead and try it out right now and have an original Instinct 3, you can sign up for the beta program where you can get access to it. And then for external sensors, so the Tactical Edition compared to all the same sensors as standard Instinct 3, including external heart rate sensors, speed and cadence sensors, temperature sensors, as well as dog track sensors. But the Tactical Editions could also pair to additional sensors for applied ballistics as well as Victronic sensors. And then for watch faces, so both the Solar and AMOLED tactical models get one additional watch face along with all the same watch faces that are found in the standard model. So I'll just go ahead and run through all of these now just so you can see what each of them offer. Alright, so now that we talked about all the differences, so let's now talk about price. So the tactical version of the Instinct 3 AMOLED runs $599 versus the standard model, which runs $499. And then the Solar models basically have that same $100 premium over the standard counterparts. Is that worth it? Well, I have to guess that some of those specific tactical features are probably required for some of you out there who can actually utilize those features. But for those of you out there who may be looking at this watch for maybe stuff like the Rucking profile or even the tactical profile, you could actually just go ahead and get a standard Instinct 3 and you'll get those features. And then in addition, there's also some other features that are kind of highlighted as tactical features that may only be available on the tactical models, but they're actually also available on the standard Instinct 3s, like a projected waypoints feature. There's also dual grid coordinates as well as the tactical profile, which also utilizes dual grid coordinates as a data field. It is kind of a bummer though that if you want an actual all black Instinct 3 Solar, you'll have to go with the tactical model, but hopefully Garmin will come out with some other color options for the standard Instinct 3 sometime in the future. Now, if you're looking for all those tactical features of the Instinct 3 and want a lot more and have a lot more money in your pocket, you may be interested in Tactics 8. And I've actually got another video going over everything that this watch has to offer, which I'll have linked down in the description below. Anyhow, if you found the information in this video to be useful, do me a quick favor and hit that like button, and also be on the lookout for tons more sports tech videos just like this are coming soon. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.